Fighting does not make you a hero.
What if I promise to be careful? Just a shield, then.
Diana.
No sharp edges.
Be careful of mankind, Diana. They do not deserve you.
You've told me this story.
I want to preface this, okay? Superhero movies in their current state, as being done by DC and Marvel, generally both have the same problems in that it doesn't seem like anybody at either one of those studios sees the movies as movies or the stories as stories or the characters as characters. It seems like they are just manufacturing a product, and these are the beats that they have to hit, right? You know, show them cool stuff, right? Show them the costume. Show them people punching each other. Show them explosions, and show them a big blue laser in the sky, and people will pay to see it. And it seems like that's all they care about, and that's why all of these movies are essentially exactly the fucking same, right? Which is why Wonder Woman caught me off guard in that it was a pleasant surprise in a lot of ways. Like, before we get to the negative, we should talk about the positive, because it's important.
I was going to start with the positive, either way.
Well, the order that we talk about this is actually important, given what I'm going to say.
Wonder
So, yeah,
Woman
go
was a very refreshing change of pace. I mean that almost literally, because the pacing in Wonder Woman might be the best pacing in almost every superhero movie. Maybe Iron Man 1 excluded. And that's about it.
I'm actually going to bring up Iron Man 1 at a certain point, but we'll get to that.
Well, okay. Let's talk about pacing, because I just think this is an important point to hammer.
Yes. Okay. In terms of pacing, right, the last DC movie that came out, I believe it was the last one that came out, was Suicide Squad.
DC? Yes.
As far as I know.
Yes, I think so.
And in terms of pacing, that is one of the worst paced movies I have ever seen in my fucking life. I mean, ever. The pacing is fucking awful, so all over the place. It almost basically doesn't have pacing. It's basically like watching a 2-hour-long trailer, which, if you know anything about the production of the movie, will make total sense. And if you don't know anything about the production of the movie, go look it up, because it's fucking mind-blowing. But we're not going to talk about Suicide Squad. Needless to say, it's fucking shit. This movie, however, was really solidly paced, right? And especially for an origin film, that's really impressive, because if you look at any of the origin films from the Marvel movies, they basically just want to get right into it, right? There's no time spent on the character, there's no time spent on the world. They just want to get them in the costume as fast as possible and get to the action. That's all they care about. This movie, there was a lot more going on than that. The first half hour easily was just, it was focused on her growing up on the island that she grew up on, the island of the Amazons. And what was so impressive about that is it started with her as a kid, her growing up. The child actor is fucking awful, by the way, that plays her, but that's besides the point. Her as a kid, briefly her as a teenager, and then her as an adult. It focuses on her mother and what she wants for her, and then it introduces one of the main characters. I also forget his name. We're gonna call him...
Spy guy?
What?
Spy guy?
Spy guy.
He is a spy, and he is a guy.
No, let's call him Kirk.
In fact, the movie...
Bro, he's Kirk. Okay? He is Captain Kirk. So, basically, the movie drops Captain Kirk into the middle of the island. She has to save him, and there are Germans hot on his tail, who the Amazons fight off. And this is sort of the reason I really like this is because it's the outside world intruding on the bubble that she's grown up in, where she now has a taste of what the real world is outside of what her mother has told her.
While she's growing up in the islands, actually, what really makes it, and what really makes the beginning of this movie specifically different, and what makes this pacing work is there is time between crucial points of information, basically. When we're first brought to this island and we first brought to how these people live, we're not immediately told everything that is about the movie. In fact, the movie takes quite a bit to actually pinpoint what a problem is. We see her grow up, we see that she likes to fight, then after a bit we learn that there's something about her fighting and her becoming more powerful and some sort of an evil or an antagonistic force that counterbalances that, and you understand the equilibrium that is trying to be established by these people. And after that, after you actually see her deal with that for a while, not just in one scene, you see her mother eventually giving up and letting her train. You see her training. You see, you know how her training is affecting her, how it's affecting her mother, how she's growing up.
That, I think, was handled a bit clumsily, but
It was there.
At least it was there.
It jumps ahead in big chunks of time, in weird, sometimes kind of awkward ways, and it is very hand-fisted. Like, at certain points, you'll notice that the characters will literally just say things to the audience. It really felt like it almost had that Office look when they turn to the camera and speak.
That sort of petered off later in the movie. Like, I only ever noticed that on the island part of the movie. It kind of stopped. And maybe that's because she's a fish out of water character, but even then, Captain Kirk, it's Kirk, I'm sorry, even then, when he has, like, dialogue where he's explaining things, it feels like he's talking to her, not the audience, right? It was handled well.
Mm-hmm.
But for whatever reason, the writing isn't as solid on the island, and it just feels like they're just fucking throwing expository information at you, like, directly to you instead of to a character.
Yeah, I think I suspect there were rewrites or re-edits.
Yeah.
About in the first like half an hour, because there are things that are repeated in weird ways. Jokes there's a joke in the movie where she basically tells Kirk that she was born by being sculpted out of clay and given life by Zeus.
Well, that's neat.
And she just blurts it out to a normal person. And of course, when you just hear that, there's a comedic moment to that. But that's not the first time we hear it. It was explained before in one of the clumsy moments. So it had much less of an effect because we already knew it, so we weren't as surprised.
Yeah.
And comedy works with surprise.
Well, that goes beyond a comedic problem.
Well,
like,
yeah.
Basically, when she was a kid, her mother was explaining to her how she was born. And it's funny because this explanation came directly after he leaned over to me and asked, how do they breed on this island? Then immediately, an explanation comes out of fucking nowhere and is so clumsily delivered, where her mother just says, I sculpted you out of clay and begged Zeus to give life to you. And when you hear that, you're like, is this fucking normal? Like where did the explanation come from? Like, nobody asked her to explain that. She just says it. And two, You expect an audience to take that seriously? Are you fucking kidding me? So, if the origin story is that she was sculpted out of clay and then Zeus gave her life, the best way to introduce it is as a comedic moment, right? The best way to introduce it is to somebody who would have the same reaction to hearing that the audience does, right? Except that's the second time we hear it.
I think that goes that problem is linked to the, of course, like, expository montage that this movie has explaining her people and how they came to be and what they're doing. And the problem with that is that montage is extremely flawed. And it is very poorly executed in what information has to say, because it goes to the point where it's contradicting. Like, it is, they say that Zeus at one point hid these people, this island of women, to hide them from Ares, the god of war. But then they themselves say that their duty is to bring peace to the world.
It's to protect the world.
You can't beat the two of them.
Yeah.
Also,
Like-
they point out that they like, when they were talking to the people and solving the war problem before they were hidden, that they had to be broken from slavery, even though it was never established they were ever slaves.
Yeah, well, there's chunks of their history missing, and the history that we do get is, like, bizarre, not fully explained, and is really just, like, rewritten Greek mythology.
It is. If you're familiar with Greek mythology, there are plenty of times where you're gonna be squint your eyes at the screen trying to understand what the hell they're doing with it.
Yeah, because a lot of this shit is not in Greek mythology at all. And so, like,
Obviously. I mean,
I'm...
Wonder Woman's not
Yes.
the Greek.
Yes, but it goes beyond just Wonder
course.
Woman. Like, there's crazy shit in there that isn't in Greek mythology. So if you're gonna do that, it feels like, why even use Greek mythology? And that's a complaint about the comic, I would assume. Neither one of us read comics. So if that is Wonder Woman's origin in the comics, then that's a complaint about the comics, where it's like, why even use Greek mythology if you're just gonna say whatever the fuck you want anyway?
It is odd. I'd say using Greek mythology to create a superhero is interesting. It gives it a certain weight, but that weight needs to be carried. There needs to be a clear line of where the fiction begins and where does it end, and second, there needs to be clear consequences of that origin, which Wonder Woman doesn't have. You do not look at Wonder Woman, especially with that suit, and ever think of Greeks. Ever.
No.
It just doesn't come about, and it makes her nature, her origin story, ultimately fruitless. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't contribute anything to the movie.
Yeah. It would have been better with a original mythology. It did not need Greek mythology at all. But anyway, beyond that, the stuff on the island, while some of it was clumsy, and looking back on it, doesn't really match the movie at all. It feels like a different movie.
Yeah.
It still wasn't that bad.
No,
Like-
other than the occasional off acting and child acting being just awful. Oh, and everybody on this island has an obnoxious accent. It always feels like a mixture of posh British with Russian. It is like everybody's starting to talk with the back of their throats, and everybody sounds like this. And come here, and go there, and you're my daughter. It doesn't work. It looks goofy. You can feel the actors reacting to how goofy it is.
Yeah. The accent, but what was weird about it, the accent was awful, but consistent.
That's true.
Like, at least it was consistent.
True, which was better than After Earth.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the stuff that happens on the island was lower quality than the rest of the movie, but it was still serviceable. Like, I never found myself angry at it like I do a lot of other superhero movies. The fight on the beach felt a little bit sort of small and pathetic and kind of pointless.
Actually, you know what? I think the fight looked too big.
No. It looked small trying to look big, is what I'm saying.
Okay, so let's explain, first of all, why does this happen? These people, these Amazons, live on this island hidden by Zeus. But Zeus didn't do a very good job of hiding them because they're in our world, except they have basically a big invisibility blanket around them. If anything crosses that threshold, they're in the island. It doesn't matter if they're human or not. So what happens is that Kirk accidentally falls into the island, into the perimeter, and Wonder Woman sees it and goes to rescue him. But he's being followed by the Germans during the First World War. So the Germans come in, the Amazons see that big ship coming, so they react and they attack. And this is just one ship, a ship that is sinking, by the way. And this is just...
I don't even know that it was supposed to be sinking.
Well,
it was just
like it was.
It was weirdly lopsided in the background for no reason.
Nobody knows what was happening. It doesn't matter. And we have this war. But you see, like, maybe 3 boats of Germans coming, and you see a handful of Amazons fighting. And yet the fighting goes forever. And it's just... It goes to the point where it's just, how are these people still fighting? It's not like they are fighting like a lot and it's this very close match where they're trying to get kills. No! Everybody dies in one shot. And I don't mean one shot in one arrow, I mean in one filming shot.
Yeah, see, that's the thing, is like, the fight was actually rather tiny and unimpressive, but it was shot in a way that you feel like you're meant to feel like it's this big, battle, against this invading force.
You see these Germans driving up to a beach and then a defending force?
Well, here's the thing. The Germans coming up to the beach, they had a little Saving Private Ryan moment where the boats, wedge themselves up onto the sand and then they all come pouring out, but they don't even get out of the boat before they drop from like these arrows coming in, and you're like, okay, that's kind of intense, and then it gets into the rest of the fight and you're just looking at it like, there are, 10, 15 people.
There couldn't be more.
Like, maybe 20 people total fighting on the beach, and yet you have these massive, sweeping shots of like slow-mo, the fucking Amazons flipping all over the place, firing off arrows in midair, killing 3 people at a time, and like, I just want like one hard cut where it just like zooms out and gets rid of all the music and you just see this pathetic little squabble on the beach, because that's what it was, and it was meant to look so much bigger.
And to make it worse, everybody dies. Except for Wonder Woman and the guy she rescued, everyone else dies. Which means that these Amazons, the protectors of whatever,
yeah,
that
by the way,
training since forever.
Yeah, the Amazons have been training forever, for their entire lives, and by the way, they're immortal. Their entire immortal lives, they've been training for battle, and yet 20 Germans show up and murder all of them. Like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, it made her people look beyond
pathetic. Like,
it really made no
And don't
sense.
even give me the shit like, oh, the Germans had guns. So what? They should have been able to deal with anything that gets thrown at them because they've been training their entire immortal lives.
They are Zeus' chosen people.
Yeah, they're chosen by a god to protect humanity. Like, and you're telling me that 20, not even like highly trained Germans, just 20 German grunts come in and fucking wipe them out?
And this is all made worse because there was absolutely no need for any of the Amazons dying. It has no impact on the story whatsoever.
No.
In fact, it would be much more interesting, much more nice to see if they did come up to the beach, the Amazons show up on horse like they did, just start shooting the arrows hanging from wires like they did, and just wipe them all out immediately.
Yes. See, this would have been interesting for two reasons. One, because it would show you like the true capability of Amazons, but two, it would have shown Captain Kirk the true capability of Amazons,
Yeah.
right? Where he sees these, like,
Women.
well, not just women, like, okay, yes, see, that maybe could have been established a little bit better so that you understand his perception of women
Exactly.
before this battle, but I understand why that would be hard to do. But beyond that, right, these are guys who are pursuing him. If they catch him, he's dead. And now he's watching a group of women in a tropical forest or a tropical beach just kill them.
Yeah.
And he would have understood the power of the Amazons. And now Wonder Woman is so much more powerful than that. But that's not what we get. What we get instead is how fucking pathetic the Amazons are.
And Wonder Woman just happens to be semi-decent.
Yeah, and that's the thing. During that battle, Wonder Woman just sort of
There's
stands there.
nothing.
She's just sort of in the background, just
And then
standing
cries.
around. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's just say that Wonder Woman's start in battle is less than exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, so fast forward, they decide that staying where they are is not safe anymore because there's a gigantic war going on.
Did the Amazons decide that?
It's a mixture of two things. First, Kirk does say that they're not safe because there's this war going
Yes,
on
we're gonna
everywhere.
keep calling him Kirk, by the
Yes.
way.
And second, Wonder Woman is compelled by his plight, and she is devoted to the Amazons' cause of ending war for humanity by killing Ares, the god of war, which she assumes that is behind the biggest war ever, which is a reasonable assumption, and makes for a credible motivation for her character.
Well, see, but that does two things, because it establishes the idea of Ares, right?
Yeah.
But it also clashes the two worlds, where you're looking at like Wonder Woman, who's grown up on this island, knowing, like, not just believing in, but knowing that gods exist, and a normal dude who hears this and is just like, what the fuck am I listening to right now?
Yeah.
Like, and that's pulled off pretty well, where he is not on board with this. He's like, treats her like sort of a crazy bimbo in a way, where, and not even in like an obnoxious way, where it's like, okay,
Yes,
you
it doesn't
believe
have
in
a laugh track
God,
behind
like,
it.
yeah, it's treated more realistically, down to earth, where he's just like, all right, this is what I'm gonna have to deal with, right? Where it's like, we're gonna have to work on some issues, and that's handled, you know, pretty well.
It's actually funny.
It is. It's funny, but that's what I like about that is it clashes the two worlds together, which does become important in the movie.
In fact, it does it better than Thor.
Yes, I also wanted to bring up Thor, and we're going to talk about that later too. We're going to talk about Thor and Iron Man.
So fast forward, and they leave the island.
Oh, right. I had a question about them leaving the island.
Okay.
Because you said that the Amazons wanted to leave? Like,
No, the Amazons don't want to leave.
Okay, right. Okay.
But
just clearing that up. I thought I
I'm
missed
explaining why
something.
Wonder Woman wants to leave.
Yes, Wonder Woman wants to leave because she believes that she can help end the war by destroying Ares.
And also because, as Kirk said, they're not. He kind of convinces her sort of that they're no longer safe in the thin veil of
Yeah.
of invisibility.
Right. This is what I wanted to bring up before we move on past the island. Okay, so there's this shield around the island, which does what exactly?
I've already explained it.
Well, no, let me, because I'm going to explain this, okay? So, Wonder Woman wants to leave, right? Now, her mother says that if she leaves, she can never return. Why? Are her people going to, like, ostracize her? Right? If she tries to come back, are her people gonna say, no, get the fuck out? Or is it a product of this shield? And if she leaves, then she can't get back in? But if that's the case, how do regular people get in the first place? And this whole shield seems like a pretty bad idea if the rest of the world can just accidentally walk into it. So, like, the shield doesn't make any sense, and her not being able to return doesn't make any sense. Because if it's her people who just won't let her, then they're fucking assholes and basically a cult who, like, ostracize her for wanting to leave. Like, this fucking retarded.
Yeah, that's never really well explained. It's just another really trope. It's all
Right. And that's what I'm pointing out, is how much of a beat that is. Where it's like, if you leave, you can never return. How many fucking movies have we seen that in? And it's to the point where they're not even trying anymore because they know an audience will just accept it as soon as anybody says it because it's so commonplace that they don't even bother trying to make it make sense. They just say it as if, like, oh yeah, that's normal.
Yeah. So that's the first part of the movie. It's refreshing in pacing. But
yes,
it has flaws, weird ones at times, and
it's paced well. It was during this it was in the middle of this first section of the movie that I actually leaned over to him and said, like, the pacing is actually, really good, like, really refreshing, where it's like it's taking time to breathe and time to have sort of smaller, quiet moments.
Yeah, and those quiet moments are essential when you're trying to get the audience to buy this world. This world that is basically just immortal women who both believe they're the saviors of humanity and completely excluded from humanity at the same time.
But more importantly in this movie, I think, maybe not more importantly, but just as importantly, it gives you enough time to, in your own head, establish this island as normality. So when you actually do see London and the rest of the world, it clashes and you're thrown out, you're thrown out of your own headspace just like Wonder Woman is seeing all this shit for the first time. And it actually worked really well.
That's true. It made a good point, did a good job at putting you on her shoes, which, if you're trying to make a comic book movie, which I assume at least part of the pleasure ought to be some sort of, like, displacement in put yourself on, I want to be this hero.
Right.
That's something crucial that so many superhero movies just ignore.
They don't ignore it. Their approach to it is completely different, right? They give you an action figure to just impose yourself on.
That's true.
Right? Where it's like, nobody wants to be Captain America because of his character. His character is boring as fuck. People want to be Captain America because he's Captain America. They want to have superpowers, right? So that's all the movie gives you, is essentially an action figure to place yourself in. Because he's a completely empty shell of a character. Wonder Woman, on the other hand, actually establishes a real character.
Yeah.
Is she the best character we've ever seen in, like, big budget movies like this? Not by a long shot. But she actually is a character.
Yes.
She's a person beyond just somebody to imprint yourself on.
Yes. I think basically the difference between the two comes down to pacing. It's not that other Marvel or DC characters lack a clear understanding of motivation or things that they care about peculiarly. The difference is, do you believe them? Do you believe that these characters actually believe these things and they care about these things? And this is both a product of writing and pacing. while I wouldn't say the writing is extraordinary in this movie, the pacing is extraordinary in comparison to other superhero movies.
The pacing should not be extraordinary.
It shouldn't.
But-
It's really basic.
That's what's sad, is like, the things that are extraordinary and that stand out in this movie shouldn't. It's only in comparison of its competition that you realize how fucking pathetic its competition actually is. Wonder Woman does things that normal movies should just do. It shouldn't even be a question. These are just things that you're supposed to do when you're making a movie or telling a story that Marvel movies especially just don't. And we've come to expect that. That has become normal. So when you actually see a movie that does its job for once, it becomes extraordinary. The pacing in this movie is good, right? It's what pacing should be. It gives you time to establish the world and the characters, and then gets on with its story. That's what a movie is supposed to do. And it does it, it does it.
As we move out from this island, we are presented with a few key pieces of information. First, that the war is about to end. Yes. When we get into like a parliament with Kirk, we are told that there's peace talks and there's stuff that they're trying to do, and there's like this reunion that is going to happen to try and end the war. This that.
Okay, maybe that's when I went to the bathroom.
Maybe. And second, that a group, not all the Germans, but a group of Germans, is developing a gas weapon that threatens this coming peace.
Yes. I will shit all over the gas later, but for now.
And threatens this coming peace talks, and threatens to murder thousands, if not millions of lives. While this is happening, though, it's not all in one gulp. It's distributed, I would say, pretty evenly. It is also being balanced with Wonder Woman
Wonder Humans.
trying to adapt to not Victorian, but
Yeah, early 1900s.
early 1900s London.
I mean, it's World War I. That's something else I want to bring up. Is really refreshing to see this movie take place in World War I and not World War II or sometime later. Like, World War I was a really interesting, refreshing era, and they did it well. But we'll get into that also.
So we have this pretty nice mixture, well balanced mixture of exposition and character as Wonder Woman starts to understand Kirk better, and as Kirk starts to understand Wonder Woman better, and starts to respect her a little more, because he does have that kind of thing, oh, she's a woman at the beginning. And this it is a nice balance, and it is a nice
Yeah, like, at no point does any of this stuff having to do with, like, the gas or the main plot, at no point does it ever feel like an info dump, where it's like the movie is just shitting information on you so that they can move on. It's dispersed well. It's dispersed like you would expect, you know, a movie generally to disperse information instead of lumping it all in one fucking clump and just getting it out of the way. It feels natural the way that the information is scattered through this movie.
There's not much more to say about this part of the movie.
There is.
Okay.
The time period is actually done well. Like, something else that we'll talk a little bit more about too is the green screening in this movie. While just as obvious as any other fucking movie nowadays, where you can like totally tell that the green screen is 2 inches from their head, right, is used sparingly enough, right? They use the green screen,
especially in the beginning and middle.
Yeah, they use the green screen when they need to build the time, like a period accurate city, is CG, clearly, because you're not gonna like build all of that or retrofit a modern city to look like that. So they had to CG it, so of course that's green screen. But when they're actually in the streets, right?
Yeah.
Those are sets that you're looking at. They're proper sets.
They're
for
in the
most part.
woods. They're actually in the woods.
Yeah, where there are real locations that they film on, and it pays off every time that they do. But in this part of the movie, I also wanted to talk about just the wardrobe in general.
Oh.
It looks really good. Like, the time period
Yeah.
is immersive.
It is.
You know, you never once really question it. It's
That's
just,
true.
it flows, you know, really well. And there's even a good scene, a scene that is in the trailer, by the way, that I thought would be obnoxious, but was actually funny.
She's trying out the clothes.
When she's trying on
Yes.
clothes, it's actually funny because her whole thing is, well, I need to be able to fight. And the woman that she's talking to is like, why? That's an odd request.
Of course.
And I even like that character, the secretary who's like, I'll even get into some fisticuffs if I have to, or whatever she says.
I am not opposed to engaging in a bit of fisticuffs should the occasion arise.
Like, I thought
She
she
was
would be...
talking about the feminist rising, actually.
Yeah, she mentioned women getting the vote. That's something else that I wanted to talk about, which is this movie could very easily have been like feminist propaganda the way that the Ghostbusters movie was.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. Like,
No.
they play it for what it is, right? The characters aren't screaming at you about how women don't have these rights. You see it in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, and not just in that scene either. Like, you see other examples of it. And it's never just in your face or just shitting on you, you know.
It's not shitting on itself either. It's not. They're not villainizing the people who at this time considered women to be, you know, incapable of political conversation. They're portrayed as they were.
Yeah,
there's no evil.
The portrayal is really good, the portrayal of the time period, and that extends into the military also, where it's like, one of the things that pissed me the fuck off about Captain America was how they portrayed the time period. It was insulting to a point where I can't believe that people let it go.
It's true.
Where that movie took place, or at least the beginning of that movie took place in World War II, where they were fighting the Germans, right? Except they're not Nazis. This is an offshoot of the fucking military called the Hydra. And like, I get it, that's in the comics too. It's fucking shitty. Like, just call them Nazis.
I thought you were gonna. You were.
I am.
Stuff.
That's not what I had the biggest problem about. The biggest problem I had with Captain America was the way they portrayed the military, right? This is a war not just against Germany, but against China and Japan as well, right? And yet, the American platoons have Chinese and Japanese people in them. Like, that is mind-blowing to me.
It is not just mind-blowing because we were currently at war with Japan.
It's because we had concentration camps. We actively plucked those people out of society and put them in concentration camps. We did not let them fight with us. To say that's historically inaccurate should be incredibly insulting to especially any Asian Americans. It's fucking mind-blowing. And beyond that, not only do they have Asians in the American platoons, but they have black people, Mexicans, and natives as well. It was like, we have to fill a fucking diversity quota, so we'll just put all this shit in there and nobody will notice. No! Fuck you, Captain America. Like, it is so beyond insulting. They took World War II and made it feel like Vietnam. Like,
If you can go online right now and watch a TED Talk with George Takei talking about the day that their family was imprisoned because of their race during World War II.
Japanese Americans American citizens of Japanese ancestry were looked on with suspicion and fear and with outright hatred simply because we happen to look like the people that bombed Pearl Harbor. And the hysteria grew and grew until on February 1942, the President of the United States, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, ordered all Japanese Americans on the west coast of America to be summarily rounded up with no charges, with no trial, with no due process. Due process is the core pillar of our justice system. That all disappeared. We were to be rounded up and imprisoned in 10 barbed wire prison camps in some of the most desolate places in America.
Every person that even had, like, what, up to 3 generations ago Japanese or Chinese was imprisoned in the United States. It is one of the most shameful periods of time that America has ever gone through. Let's not even say how sad it is, how little it's talked about, but have this movie to just pretend it didn't happen, it's insane. It's insane.
Now, that was Captain America. Wonder Woman, I wanted to bring that up because Wonder Woman doesn't do that. We were talking about the time period and how it's portrayed. And in Wonder Woman, it's portrayed properly. You don't see black soldiers, which you wouldn't see in World War I. You know? The Germans, well, they're never called Nazis and you never see a swastika because, again, it's World War I, not World War II.
Yeah.
But they still have the black German star thing.
Isn't it accurate?
What?
For World War I? Didn't they have that?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It is accurate.
They
Whereas,
wouldn't be Nazis.
yes, you're right. They wouldn't be Nazis, but still, they have that black German star that they had in World War I. They didn't try to turn it into a different emblem, you know, to keep from insulting the Germans or something. They didn't have, like, an offshoot of the German military so that they didn't have to say Germans are the bad guys. They straight up do, in this movie, say Germans are the bad guys, right? And you gotta respect that they didn't just succumb to political correctness, that they actually portrayed the time period properly.
And we're not saying that Germans were the bad guys in World War I, we're saying that these characters would say they were.
Right. The Americans would say that Germans are the bad guys.
Makes
They're
sense.
specifically fighting the Germans.
Well, the British.
The British, you're right, the British. Although he was American though, wasn't he?
His officer was British. They were.
That is true. Now that I'm thinking about it, that's true. Because he has an American accent. He doesn't even make an attempt at a British accent.
No.
Like, that didn't even occur to me, but yeah. Yeah, this was the British military, but Kirk had an American accent. I mean, I guess it says something about the movie that I never thought about it. But still, he puts on a German accent in the movie. He couldn't do a British accent for the rest of it. Whatever. But point being, the time period is portrayed really well, like really accurately. And even does, at a certain point, get into the plight of the people, too.
Which is an important point to say, because this isn't a war with no victims, as is so often the case with movies nowadays.
Right, where it's like it's a war and you just see people shooting at each other. No, you actually do see, like, victims of the war. You see fallen soldiers. One was actually pretty shocking. You actually saw his leg, cut off and just a bloody stump. And for a PG-13 movie, it's pretty interesting that they managed to get away with that. But you also see civilians. Now, it's a very small part of the movie, but it's enough. Like, it's enough, right? To make you feel like there is more to this war than just, Wonder Woman's gonna go kick German ass. Like, you understand why she wants to, right? On multiple levels. Like, even if you leave the Ares thing aside, she feels for the people that she's seeing are being hurt, and she wants to help them.
Yeah, and this leads to actually a fairly interesting fight scene where you have Wonder Woman going towards the opposite trench, which starts shooting at her, and it's just Wonder Woman gaining ground, trying to protect herself from all the gunfire, as her squad, let's call it that, sneaks in from the side undetected because everybody's just shooting at the big woman with the big shield. And this, like, the effects are not amazing, but passable. It's interesting to
They're
see.
serviceable.
It's for a character that you understand in a period that you believe in a world you have some sort of stakes in. So it makes for an okay fight.
Like, here's the thing, like, she advances onto the other trench, onto the opposing trench, where she is told that nobody can do that. Nobody can cross this field because there's just too much artillery being fired from the Germans, and that they've been there for a year and haven't been able to gain any ground. So she just jumps out of the trench, runs across, blocking gunfire, charges into the other trench, destroys them, goes beyond that and goes into the occupied little town and deoccupies it, right? She just goes through the town and kills all of the Germans. Like, straight up kills them, right?
Yeah.
Not like Marvel, oh, they got beat up and they've been defeated. No, she fucking kills them. And takes back this little town. It was a really good action sequence, right?
And this needs to be said. What really made that sequence good was how minimalistic it was. At no point is Wonder Woman firing, magic beams. At no point is she, like, making things where it just disconnects from the audience. It's like, you can see her fighting, the choreography is interesting, like, you can see everybody's, like, fighting this one woman so that she's being attacked in different ways. And she's creative, like she blocks with something while attacking with something else, and makes a defense into an attack and an attack into a defense, and it's fluid. It's shot well enough so you never actually lose track of what she's doing. I mean, at certain points you do, but
yeah,
it slows down every time, and you'd always, every time you miss, like, what is going on exactly, it comes back to itself. It doesn't lose itself into just gibberish. And it makes it is this, again, it's this break from the norm where it's down to earth. It works.
It was a shockingly entertaining scene to watch, which is something that I'm not used to from superhero movies. I'm used to just zoning out and hating action in superhero movies because everything is so fake and CG, and I don't give a fuck about any of the characters. But this, because you care about the characters, and because the action is shot well enough and entertaining enough, like, it made for, like, a thoroughly entertaining action scene, save one point. Okay, this is now at the beginning of this scene, as we discussed, there are two trenches. One is the German trench and one is the British trench, and we're told that the British have not been able to advance at all. Now you have a squad of five people that just do it. Yes, they have Wonder Woman with them, fine, but the British trench doesn't seem to give a fuck, like, at all. Well, they actively don't do anything.
Yeah.
And that's what was really irritating me, where it's like, Wonder Woman goes out there and she's fine, like, okay, she's blocking the bullets, you get it. But the other four go out there too, and they're also fine. And Wonder Woman isn't doing anything to protect them, really, other than drawing their fire, I suppose. But then shouldn't the British military be taking advantage of this too? They didn't react the way you would expect soldiers to react. They just sort of sat there doing nothing. And if, they wanted to use the excuse, well, they were too beaten down and didn't you know.
And that's just not how the War of Trenches was fought, really.
Yeah,
So
like-
it was counterintuitive to them. You could really
Like,
say that.
you could use that excuse, but it still felt off.
Underwhelming.
It felt like the writers just didn't think about it.
Yeah.
It felt like the writers needed an excuse to have a cool action scene where Wonder Woman beats the shit out of everybody. And like we said, it is a fun action scene. It's a good action scene, but it just... there had to be a way to make it a fun action scene but also make sense.
Yeah. Granted, it leads to Wonder Woman and her little squad going into this little town and having a pretty entertaining fighting sequence where everything is close quarters and minimalistic. And that's really where I think DC's, at least in this movie's, action really shines. Like, the choreography is interesting. Like, you have everybody fighting this woman, right? And the action slows down enough, and you can see, like, she's she's attacking, but her attack also turns into a defense, and her defenses against some also turn into attacks, and she's able to deal with multiple threats at the same time in believable ways.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like she ever just like targets this one dude, okay, beats that dude, then targets this dude, okay, beats that dude, and then goes to the next. No, it actually feels like she's taking on these multiple opponents all at once. The only problem I had in the action scene really was the sniper, where it just felt like complete fucking overkill, where she essentially bombs. Like, she uses her body as a bomb to blow up a sniper who only showed up at the end of the fight. Like, they've won, they've beaten everybody, and then here's this one sniper who's like, no, I'm still here, and starts shooting, and then Wonder Woman just annihilates him. Like, completely decimates him, and you're just like, wow, that was some overkill shit.
To put it in perspective, the way Wonder Woman deals with an armored car in the midst of battle, just shooting at her whole squad, is to flip it over. It's done.
All
It's not gonna do
she
anything.
picks it up and turns it on its
And that's
side,
it.
and it's disarmed.
Yeah, I mean, and then to kill or to disarm, to stop one sniper, she blows up an entire church
With her body.
Yes, like it's not even clear how she accomplished that.
She
much
went
destruction.
through the wall and then just explosion. Like, all right.
It was comical.
It was comical. It wasn't too egregious, but in all honesty, to make that worth it, the sniper should have been there from the beginning, right?
Yes, it'd also make it more interesting.
The sniper should have been there, firing and holding back, you know, her mortal squad. You know, not being able to go out and join the fight as effectively as they would like to because there's a sniper shooting at them, and then Wonder Woman has to deal with them. That's not what happens. What happens is the fight is over, and then just a sniper shows up out of nowhere, and then she decimates him. Anyway, so they take this town, right? They've gotten rid of the occupying force, and now they're having a party to celebrate the victory. And this is a good moment to discuss sort of something that this movie excels at, which is the way the characters interact with each other.
Yes, I would say nothing of it is masterful or groundbreaking, but is entirely competent and entirely believable and especially entirely natural.
That's the thing. In terms of its drama, in terms of the characters dealing with each other, right? You look at most superhero movies, and there's always that a few moments, right? There's either the misunderstanding where the characters get wedged apart only to come back together later. How many?
The liar revealed.
The liar revealed, which is somebody tells a small lie to achieve something that they think is for the better good. Everybody finds out about it and way overreacts. How many fucking times have we seen both of those scenarios go down? Wonder Woman didn't have any of that. Like, the word I would describe most drama, especially in superhero movies, is manufactured.
Yes.
Like, it's there so that there can be conflict. Whereas in Wonder Woman, the conflict and the drama arises naturally out of the story and the characters as you would expect them to.
Yes.
Right? There's nothing melodramatic about any of it. There's nothing manufactured about any of it. It plays out well and it plays out naturally.
Yeah, and it's like after they take this town, like, of course there's no more action because they've done it, and the movie doesn't just move on. No, they actually stay in the town, which is important.
The movie has a moment where it takes a break.
Yeah.
And lets you interact with the characters.
Yeah, it's not just a moment for the characters, it's actually accomplished something more meaningful because, okay, you've liberated this town, and now you get to see it, which is something I have literally never seen in a Marvel movie.
Yeah. Or DC.
Well,
Like,
that's true. But
like
yeah,
superhero movies in general, like when they save the world or they save the city, you never see it. The movie just tells you like they saved it, and then it fucking either moves on or ends.
Yeah.
Right? This takes a moment, and it's like it lets you savor the hero's victory.
Yes.
You know, and it's really nice to see that.
I mean, you have the characters like Wonder Woman and Kirk start dancing, and they're just, and you have a little piano guy. One of the squad mates is like singing.
Yeah, and they say that he hasn't sung in years.
Yeah, like
okay, like you understand the impact this victory had on the characters.
Yeah.
Like that alone, you're like, okay, this victory gave that character some hope.
Yeah.
That he was lacking, you know, and it's a good moment. And the other thing that this does is it should be noted that Captain Kirk didn't want to save the town, right?
That's true.
He wanted to move on, as you would expect from him. He's a soldier. He understands. This is a fucking massive global war, right? You can't be stopping constantly to help everybody you feel sympathetic for. You know, you have to push through. But Wonder Woman stops and deals with the problem, right? She pushes through it, and she comes out victorious and saves this town and its people, right? So what you have now is Wonder Woman is hearing a harsh reality that this is a big war. Everybody is suffering. We can't keep stopping. But on the other hand, Captain Kirk is seeing that, you know, maybe there is more that can be done on a small level. Like maybe it's not such a bad thing to.
I guess it comes down to just because we can't save everyone doesn't mean we can't save these people.
Exactly, where it's like, so now both of these characters have been exposed to a different worldview, you know, and that's also important.
And it gives something to the audience too. Is like after it gives the audience something to respect out of Wonder Woman.
Also him too.
Well, yes, both of them, but
Because-
I'm saying Wonder Woman because she's the protagonist.
Yeah, well, I'm saying you respect him too because it could have gone one of two ways. Where it's like, how many times have you seen this also, where it's like somebody saves the day, but then the fucking captain, whoever's in charge, marches in and is like, I don't care if you saved the town. You should have respected my orders.
That's what I was expecting to happen.
It could have so easily gone that way where he starts yelling at her for stopping, but no. Instead, he savors the victory too because he understands what just transpired, and now there's a little bit more hope in him as well.
Yeah, and this is drama. Otherwise, it would have been melodrama because this is actually this is what actual people would have done, first of all, and second, it actually furthers the characters and it furthers the story, and it helps build the movie as a whole.
Yeah, well, it helps, like, the characters, I think, is what it's most important to, because
Yeah.
I'm just not used to seeing characters being built in superhero movies.
Yeah.
It's refreshing. So, now, while they're taking this town back, we also have the villain's plotline, right?
As this happening, we are also learning a few other points of information that also help shape Wonder Woman's focus in this war and what needs to be done. And by doing that, also focusing the movie, we learn that there's this general that is manufacturing a gas, and it's threatening these peace talks, and this leads to her assuming that he is Ares. He is the god of war,
Yeah,
and and she determines him to be the main antagonist.
yes. She believes that he is Ares, the god of war, and now he is her target. The plot about the gas sort of kicks into to full drive here, right? This
Yes.
is where it really takes off. Whereas you'd only been seeing like sort of hints and things about it, but once they take the town, you start hearing a lot more about it, and it starts really driving the plot or the movie as a whole now. And it doesn't make sense. I found
The gas is
really
comical and
here's the thing. Throughout the entire movie, I was never certain if it was mustard gas or not.
you were saying it was hydrogen based and not sulfur based, which is what I assume. Mustard gas is based off, which meant that their gas max would be useless against it. Now the gas does melt.
Okay, this is what I wanted to bring up. The reason the gas doesn't make any fucking sense is because the effects that it has on the world around it are fucking bizarre.
They make
Now,
no sense.
You see the guy wearing a gas mask, and the gas crushes it and cracks all the glass?
What?
You don't remember that?
No.
When the guy was sitting in the chair in the gas chamber, he was wearing a gas mask for some reason.
Yes.
They pump in the gas, the glass in the gas mask cracks, right? And the actual face piece starts crushing in.
Well, okay. What I assume if that's what it looked like, because I missed if that's what you saw.
That's what happened. The gas mask
Fine.
gets smaller and starts
What
crumbling.
I assume they were trying to do was create a gas that could not be counteracted by gas masks,
Yes.
which makes sense, I guess.
Fine.
But instead of having a gas that is just not filtered, which would make sense since there's
Yeah, like,
hydrogen
what
based.
would have made sense would be to have this gas that is just unaffected by the filters in gas masks and would just go through and kill the person wearing the gas mask anyway. But instead, it, like, destroys the gas mask somehow. Like, do you remember
Yeah.
when it was, like, this little tiny chamber,
yeah.
and they pump it in, and the whole gas mask just, like, fucking melts and bursts into flame?
Yeah, and then you're thinking, wait, if it just destroys everything it comes in contact, what exactly are you housing that in?
Exactly, where it's like it destroys the glass in the gas mask, and when they throw it into the room filled with German,
Destroys the window.
it destroys the windows in that room, and yet they're keeping it in like this glass chamber.
Yeah. It made no sense.
And like I want you to tell me how gas breaks glass. That's all I want.
Gas breaks glass.
Just I want somebody to explain the physics of that to me, because it's fucking
At
stupid.
most it would corrode it, but no, it literally breaks
It like cracks the glass and breaks it. Like it would make sense if it like, even if it just melted through the glass, I would find more acceptable than it actually breaking it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could if like the gas is like extremely hot and there's like this terminal thing and it just cracks it.
Like I guess, but like
It's just liquid lava. It's what
Like,
it is.
the gas doesn't make any sense the way that it interacts with the world, and it's never fully explained, if even explained at all, why it's such a big problem.
Well,
Like, we're basically just told this is their new super weapon, accept it.
the gas is important only because, in fact, okay. To understand why the gas is important, you have to remember that's the scene where the German generals are gassed. Do you remember why they were gassed?
No, actually.
That's important.
Okay.
They were gassed because the main general, the one that we are to assume is Ares, goes to them to tell them that they developed the gas. Like, we have this weapon, and it has the enemy has nothing to protect itself against it. And the generals say, that's great, go screw yourself, because the war is over. They're going to be talking to the British side, and they're going to end the war because it doesn't matter anymore. There are too many people dead, and there's no money left, basically, and the war is about to end. The problem with the gas is less to do with its destructive powers, but the fact that he's going to use it on the peace talks to keep the war going. That is what he's doing.
Okay.
It's their weapon because every superhero has to have the super weapon.
That's what I'm getting to. Like, the gas is essentially their version of the blue laser in the sky.
Well, no, because there is a blue laser in the sky.
No, you know what I mean, though. Like,
Yeah,
it's their version of the fucking super weapon that's gonna ruin everything, and
Yeah.
Wonder Woman has to stop it. Like,
Because the First World War wasn't quite bad enough.
yeah, like, it was this super weapon that's just like tacked on to like give them like a bigger force to fight against, and to give you a shitty red herring. Now the other thing is, it felt too limited in like the craziness also, where it's like, if you're going to have like a chick that her face is melted off and she's got like these weird prosthetics on, you've got a guy with like this vial of shit that he can just crack and sniff and it turns him into a superhuman. If you're gonna have
showed up in the movie for no reason.
it just for no fucking reason. Like, they have this but they're not using it.
Yeah.
Alright, I
The
think
general just uses it to crush guns.
I think there was an excuse where they're like, the effects don't last.
Well,
But who gives a shit? Because it clearly does enough, right? But no, only the general uses this. So you have like this like little sprinkling of craziness, and it's like there's not enough to justify it, and yet having it all feels
underwhelming.
Unnecessary.
Oh.
Like, it doesn't need to be in the movie. Get rid of the weird semi-supernatural shit.
The Germans had plenty of gases and plenty of weapons in World War
Yeah,
I.
seriously, what was wrong with just mustard gas?
Or chlorine gas, or did he use it on the World War II?
I don't know, but point is, what's
There's
wrong?
plenty of-
What's wrong with the gas that actually existed? Why did they have to invent a new one with properties that make no fucking sense? And why did they have to have this super serum? Now, I will say the fight scene that is a result of that super serum shit is a good one.
Yeah.
We'll get to that, but like, in terms of like the better good of the story, it accomplishes nothing, and neither one of those elements should have been in the movie.
Alright. Now, do you want to talk about the gala? Or do you want to just skip it? Because I was going to skip it.
Yeah, nothing happens in the gala really. It's kind of a pointless scene.
But,
We'll just say that, like, the gala is pointless other than to reaffirm Wonder Woman's belief that that general is Ares.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all it's there for, and to get Wonder Woman in a blue dress for some reason.
Yeah, it really wasn't all that. I mean, I understand why it's in a movie, but it should have been used better. It should have been more.
It should have been used to give us another slow moment to
Yeah.
allow our main characters to mingle with the enemy and maybe get a different side of the story.
Yeah, that's true. That would be.
But instead, they just Wonder Woman is in a blue dress and tries to murder the general, but then Captain Kirk stops her, and then they leave.
Wonder Woman's just pissed off that the general basically killed the village that they saved.
Yeah, see, that's what I was gonna mention about the gala. When they're leaving the gala,
Yes.
the general has launched gas into the village that they had just saved and come from, and killed everybody there. And that launches Wonder Woman into, like, superhero mode, essentially.
Yeah. And she tracks him down, and they start fighting. He can stand his own for a while because of the serum, but eventually, in a pretty well choreographed and interesting fighting scene.
It was a good
Yeah.
fight scene. I liked it. What I liked about it is it was kind of short.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't excessive. It was like this quick thing, you know, and it was fun.
It was short enough and it was grounded enough. Like, it was impressive in the sense that they were doing superhero stuff, like smashing things and jumping and using
yeah,
colorful things.
when she kicked him out the side of the building, like, it
Yeah.
was a really good shot.
Yeah, but it's still grounded enough for you to feel the impact of things and to place yourself into the scene. And it is satisfying when she does kill him.
Yeah, when she does kill him, you're like, okay, she, like, accomplished
Yeah.
what she set out to do. She did it, and even though he was on super serum, she still overcame him.
And then the movie plants the seeds for what could be an entirely new ending for superheroes in general. We're at the end of the movie, and Wonder Woman just killed the general. And she gets up, expecting to find the people that were doing the war, basically.
Yeah, there was
To stop.
There was basically a production facility or like a hangar where they were loading ammo,
Yeah.
and she looks over at them, expecting them all to stop.
Because as we
As
were reminded shortly.
yeah,
before.
as we have been told, and as
Yeah.
Wonder Woman believes he's Ares, and once he's killed, that the war would stop. But she looks over, and they're still just like nothing happened, just loading ammo into the planes, moving troops out.
Yeah, and this looked like a very interesting ending. An ending that was very revealing for this character. Was like everything that she believed was being contested. It's realizing that a problem isn't solved by killing a villain. It was new ground for a superhero movie, and it's like it gave a new perspective to this character in this
Yeah.
entirely new way.
What I absolutely loved for a brief, fleeting moment before we get into that was the idea of a superhero movie that doesn't actually have a villain. Like, what if Ares... There was no Ares.
Yeah.
Like, what if Wonder Woman just came to the realization that this is humanity at its most flawed, what they're capable of, and there isn't a simple solution. There isn't a villain to kill, and then you've saved the world.
Yeah.
That the world is fucked up, and you have to deal with it in a more broad way. There are more things that have to be done than just the simple fix, the simple superhero movie fix of killing the bad guy.
It would also put her in an interesting situation where she, as an Amazon, is the protector of mankind. And these are the people she has to protect. These people that she outright despises because of the way they act.
Right, like this could have been like that moment where she realizes that, Jesus Christ, humanity is kind of fucked itself over. And these are the people that she's supposed to protect, are people that, through their own fault, created this situation that now she has to come in and deal with.
And then Ares shows up. And he is the sniveling little nothing guy from London
Okay.
that you barely noticed and don't care about.
Yes, he is Professor Lupin. Okay? Yes, we're calling him Professor Lupin. Now, you see him at the beginning, or not at the beginning, but you know, they first
Seen
get
London.
to when they first get to London, Captain Kirk takes Wonder Woman to see Professor Lupin. Sounds like the best movie ever made. Tell me you wouldn't watch the
I would.
shit out of that mashup. Anyway, so he's there, and you don't really know what he is.
He's some sort
he's
of
a politician.
high-ranking politician.
Yeah, he's a politician.
who's trying to end the war.
Yes, he's a politician of some sort who's trying to end the war.
He's the main guy. He's the guy that is trying to put every politician into the peace talks.
Yeah.
Which sort of makes sense.
Yeah. Now, I want to point out, both for my ego and to make a point here, the second I saw him, he's the bad guy.
Yeah, he did. Like I didn't want to believe him. Like I thought it would be like I knew there was gonna be a twist because it was too simple. But I thought it would be something more subtle. It's like it's not gonna be like, oh my god, it's like it's not this guy. It's something else. You know. He's like under I don't know doing something. Maybe he's not a person. He's just somewhere else.
To me, this was such a blatant setup.
This was.
I saw it the second I fucking saw him. He's the bad guy. Now, I want to point this out because it's not important just for this movie, but also important in general. Do you know what like really tipped me off? The actor.
Oh, because he usually plays villains.
No, not because he usually plays villains, but because they put somebody known in that role.
That's a good. Yeah, that's true.
Like, you don't know any of the other actors aside from Kirk, right? You don't even know Wonder Woman. She's pretty much a new actress. Like, Wonder Woman is her role, basically.
Yeah.
But they put a known actor in that role.
In a nothing character.
In a nothing role. He's the bad guy.
Yeah, you're entirely right. Yeah. It is a shit twist. It is terrible.
And the other thing that I want to say about this, and one of the reasons that this movie upset me so much, was I thoroughly enjoyed the middle hour of this movie. I really enjoyed it.
Up
and
to this point, this was a pretty strong movie.
yeah, like the beginning was arguably a little weak. But I even like that for what it is. But once you get past the beginning and once they get to London, for the next hour or maybe even a little bit more, it's a really good movie.
It's a competent movie.
It's really good.
It knows
it's
what it is.
fun.
It does it well.
It's fun, and I say that without it being an excuse.
Yeah,
right?
it is legit.
Normally when people say, oh, but the movie was fun, how can you criticize it? Fuck yourself. This movie was legitimately fun, and you don't have to say that as an excuse. It's legitimately fun, entertaining, well made. Is it the best movie ever made? No, not by a long shot, but it's good.
Yeah.
And it lulled me into a false sense of security where I actually
That was the twist.
where I actually believed that this movie would strive to do something more, would strive to change the superhero formula, would strive to do something else, to have a bigger point to make. And while this was happening, I was actually formulating things that I would say about this movie in a review, how it changed the superhero genre for the better, and it did something bigger with it, and then the movie flipped me off.
Yeah.
And it made me really angry. Because now, here comes fucking Professor Lupin out of nowhere to shit on the day, and he's basically... okay.
He's horrible, by the way.
He's not a good villain. Now,
Trying to have an ancient mythology Greek god with that ridiculous mustache
Yeah. Oh my god.
looks
There was
hilarious.
right, because he like at one point he wears this helmet and you can like see the mustache under the helmet and it's fucking. But even funnier than that, they show like a flashback of him like in a cave when he's all like buff and everything, but he still has like a posh mustache. It fucking looks. It's as if they believe that if they gave him a beard, like he should probably have. If they just gave him a beard, people would just be confused and not know who that was. So they just give him the same posh mustache. Oh my god, it's
He
ridiculous.
looked like the Joker when what was the actor that refused to shave his mustache?
Oh, you're talking about the 60s joke.
Yeah, where like a Joker whose actor like refused to shave the mustache, and so it's just the Joker with the mustache. That's what it looked like.
His name escapes me, but
Regardless,
yeah, it looked
looks
ridiculous.
out of place.
But
to put it
here's the thing.
gently.
Here's the thing. Even though I called it, there was nothing to set up that he was the bad guy.
No,
Nothing.
No.
If you're gonna have a twist like that, you have to be able to look back on the rest of the movie and be like, oh, I see. There are all these clues. There are no clues, right? He's just the bad guy because twist.
Ares starts saying that he didn't warp humanity. He says this, that humanity is doing everything as it is, and all he did was give them the formula for the gas, give the general the idea to attack the peace talks. So he just suggested on how to do things, not to do anything, and that the idea that humanity really is, and the way we wanted the ending to be, that it was all humanity, was kind of true, just not quite as bad, I guess.
Yeah,
And like he says that humanity is that way, and he's not the god of war, he's the god of truth.
Now, okay, this is where I got confused. And thinking back on it, I do think your interpretation of this is correct in that what the movie is saying is that Ares is not actually the god of war, Ares is the god of truth. But when that came up in the movie, it sounded like he was saying he's not Ares, he's a different god that is the god of truth. The only reason I think that it is Ares, and they're just saying that Ares is the god of truth, not war, is because they never named what other god that would be.
I don't think there is. I'm thinking of all the
Like,
gods I
okay,
can think of.
so-
at least the major ones.
So then this is like a legitimate problem where you're like, is he Ares or not?
Yeah.
And if he is Ares, but Ares is actually the god of truth, then I guess the other gods have just been completely fucking wrong and confused this whole time.
Yeah. And they do have this philosophical, of course they do, which is completely unnecessary because the philosophy of this movie is not complicated enough to be needed to be said. You can understand everything from the start with the visuals alone.
Yeah.
They have all this fucking talk, and of course it ends up with them fighting. And everything that we've said so far about the fight scenes in this movie being actually pretty entertaining, pretty engaging and creative and believable,
And the operative word being
and
good.
with grit, is over.
Yeah, out the fucking window.
With as much as we despise Marvel, Marvel can make the visuals of the grand things destroying and being somewhat believable.
This is where I'm going to disagree with you.
I think Marvel does it better.
I don't think Marvel does it better because Marvel doesn't do it at all. Marvel's villains are essentially non-existent villains.
Fine, but
so
we have the action. I'm talking about the action itself, the visuals.
Okay, I'll disagree with you on that too. I think the visuals in this movie, even the in-fight scene, are better than the action scenes in Marvel movies. Go watch the Avengers again. Seriously.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying either one of them are good. I'm just saying I still think this is above Marvel.
I don't know what DC does for their special effects or whatever, but anything that moves fast and is CG
Looks ridiculous.
horrible.
Like, okay, here's the thing, and this is what's frustrating, is, like we just said, the rest of the action scenes are good. it's not until you get to this final, we'll call it a boss fight,
Yeah.
that it starts looking like ass. One, it's so fucking over the top, it's not even funny. And two, the CG is laughable.
It is.
I mean, it's fucking terrible.
There are scenes where you can almost see like the line where the floor ends
Yeah.
and the blue screen begins.
I almost pointed it out to you, but didn't feel like it in the theater because I was just bummed. But do you remember where? So that building where they were pulling all of the ammo or the munitions out of, when it like blows up.
Mm-hmm.
Like the second before it blew up, we were looking at fire. Then it blows up, and the fire looks worse somehow. Like the fire looks awful when that specific building blows up. I don't know why. Like the CG is so inconsistent, and it's so fucking weird. The things that they choose to CG and the things that they choose to do live action, and the places where they replace Wonder Woman with CG.
I think it's blur. When they make things move, they blur it way too much.
Yes.
And the lighting goes all over the place, and it looks like it looks fake. It looks like it's outside of the movie.
That's part of the problem. The other part of the problem is that CG generally just looks bad anyway.
That's true.
Like, it's to the point in modern day movies that whenever anything CG, most people can call it.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that, because it doesn't look real. So when you have these scenes comprised almost entirely of CG after you've just been looking at live action shit, it's so jarring. It looks like you're suddenly watching a cartoon out of nowhere.
That's why the fights that are more smaller are look better. It might not even to do that the CG is better, but because there are different visuals on the screen at the same time, there are things that are CG and there are things that are real, you're more confused and it ends up looking better because there's just more detail to pay attention to.
Yeah, we can use Titanic as a good example of this, right? Say what you will about Titanic, love it or hate it, the effects in it are fucking amazing. Why? Because you can almost never tell what effect they're using when. Right?
Exactly.
Like, when they blend the set, like a live action set, and they finish it with CG. So it all looks real because what you're focused on is real, right?
Exactly.
Movies now, and especially superhero movies, can't do this for shit.
No.
They just replace everything with CG and expect people to go, oh yeah, that looks fine. And it looks like ass. It looks completely terrible.
If you put everything on the canvas being CG, it is blatantly obvious what is CG.
Especially when Wonder Woman changes to the CG model of herself.
Yeah!
It looks fucking hilariously cartoony. Like, really
She
bad.
does.
Like, do you remember Beowulf? Like,
it looks exactly like
that
Beowulf.
movie where they tried to do like a CG photorealistic telling of Beowulf and it just looks awful. Like, it's no different. It's no different. Wonder Woman doesn't look real when she's like jumping 4,000 feet into the air and flipping and tumbling, and because she's not. And it's blatantly obvious.
Yeah, the motion's not right.
The motion's not right, the texture's not right, the lighting isn't right.
Yeah.
Lighting is the most important thing when it comes to CG. You have to get the lighting right. And if you're putting the CG character on a real background, you have to make the lighting match, or it's not gonna work, right? It just makes it look fake when the lighting is off. And then you compound on top of that bad motion blur, bad textures, bad movement. It
takes me out of the movie completely.
Completely.
And you add that to having these supposed, like, you have this fight scene that is so inconsistent all the time because she can do all this, but sometimes she has to be an actual human actress, so she can't be flipping around like she does. So you can feel her being restrained so hard.
Yeah, by the limitations of the CG.
Yeah,
or
you can feel like she's just standing there on this huge battlefield,
Right.
but she can't move.
when they could have built the fight scene around a live action person, instead sometimes it's live action, sometimes it's CG, and the CG character is doing all this crazy shit, but then you cut to the live action person and she's just standing there, and it's just so
it literally
jarring.
feels like they have like a 1 meter by 1 meter square of green screen,
Which they probably do.
they had to stand. She couldn't take a step.
Yeah, I will say it's not as egregious as Pacific Rim.
Okay, fine.
Where it's like you look at the green screening in Pacific Rim and it literally looks like there's just like a wall with a picture on it right here. Wonder Woman wasn't that bad, but it still had that confining feeling to it where you really feel like she's just on a set and there's a green screen right there.
There are scenes where you can literally tell set. Nope.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, she has this huge fight with him, right?
Drawn out, ridiculous.
It's drawn out, it's ridiculous, it looks ridiculous, like it's not fun to watch. Like, do you, like, comic fans or superhero fans out there, are you entertained by stuff like this? Because that is something that confuses the shit out of me, where it's like, literally, it's like dangling keys in front of a baby. It's like, ooh, look at the shiny colors, and ooh, look at the explosion. When it's so over the top that you can't possibly take it seriously. You can't look at it and be like, wow, that's cool, because you're just laughing at it because it's so ridiculous.
Yeah. So, after all this, we have our stupid blue lightning from the sky.
Which is very brief in this.
Yeah, it is.
And is honestly just a nitpick with
It
us.
is,
It's us joking around.
Yes.
Whatever, he fucking draws lightning out of the sky. Fine,
Yeah,
whatever.
and she uses it to defeat him, and there's a big crater. And then, when he dies, the German soldiers start waking up and
Yeah, you get the shots of the German soldiers taking their masks off and looking around as if they've just been enlightened, and I was trying to figure out, okay, are they actually doing that, or is this supposed to be well, there's just been a big battle and the Germans are getting up and going, holy shit.
If that is the case, that is a very poor choice of shots.
Yes.
One,
well,
anything can happen at all when the entire movie has been compounding on the idea of them being on a trance.
Yeah, the thing that makes it worse too is that it immediately cuts to the British waving flags, yay, the war is over, whee! So the movie is simultaneously saying it's because of Ares. I'm just gonna assume that he's Ares.
Yes.
The movie's simultaneously saying it's because of Ares and that it's because of humanity.
Yeah.
Pick one. It's one or the other. You can't have this morality of humans are flawed fundamentally, but also gods are fucking with us and that's why we're flawed.
I mean, it really was the movie trying to have its cake and eat it too. They clearly wanted to have that ending. That ending was she realizing how humanity is and how flawed it is. And in fact, she says it.
They wanted that morality in there, but then they also knew they had to have a big fucking fight scene at the end.
And the problem is that if you do that, you end up muddling both. It's not as profound a lesson if the lesson is also, oh, but I was kind of right too. It's not a lesson. It's less of an arc. It's crippling her character and not accomplishing anything in return, really. It does nothing. In fact, at the end, she's like, I'm going to battle, you know, this problem, humanity being flawed and war being an inherent problem with our nature, with love, after she disintegrated a god with lightning. Pick one, right? You can't have both. You just can't at that point. If you either have that arc or you don't, and the movie ends up being crippled by not having it. There's really no good side to this. Not to mention that, as we said, like, the movie had a satisfactory boss battle before it. And if you could say, oh, it's not long enough, there's other stuff that she could have done. If there's not that god to destroy, then there's a war to terminate.
Okay, it is at this point that I want to bring up two movies. I want to bring up Iron Man, and I want to bring up The Dark Knight. Okay. Now, Iron Man, I say, is my favorite Marvel movie, the first one. But with an asterisk. The first half of the first Iron Man is my favorite Marvel movie. Because it does the same fucking thing with the boss, where it's like, oh, you think he's a good guy, and there are no hints to lead you to think otherwise, and now he's magically the bad guy, and he just shows up at the end, and now Tony has to fucking kill him.
With a magic blue laser to the sky, doesn't it?
He does. Tony kills him with a magic blue laser to the sky. It's been there since the beginning. So, that formula has just permeated superhero movies. Not necessarily that you don't know who the bad guy is, but the idea that, like, most of the movie is them just doing stuff to get to the bad guy, and then they fight the bad guy, and then they win. Right? Now think about, one, how used that is, and two, how boring it is, right? Where it's like, the superhero is just doing things for the movie, and then they fight the bad guy. Now think about The Dark Knight.
You've changed things. Forever. There's no going back. See, to them, you're just a freak. Like me.
You know who the bad guy is from the first second of the movie. And he is there throughout, causing problem after problem for our main character. The entire movie is them butting heads. The entire movie. Bruce Wayne isn't just fucking around doing random shit. He's fighting the Joker the whole time. He's not fighting the Joker's goons. You know, it's not like, oh, he fights through all of the Joker's men and then finally gets to the Joker at the end of the movie and they have an epic boss battle. The end battle in that movie, Batman just ties him up by his leg. There's no epic fight. The epic fight is the entire fucking movie.
It's all part of the plan. Come on, hit me! Let's put a smile on that face.
But somehow, superhero movies, and I think movies in general, have forgotten how to tell a story like that. Yeah. Where it's like, now it's video game logic, where it's like, first you beat the low-level boss, then you get to the main boss and have a boss fight. That's not storytelling. It's just not. It's fucking dull and boring. And overused. How this movie should have ended is Oh, we should say that while she's having the main boss fight, right, Captain Kirk is also trying to stop the airplane filled with gas. Now,
That's true.
so Kirk sacrifices himself, right? He flies the airplane and then shoots the gas canisters and blows it up, right? Thus apparently saving the world from noxious gas. Even though he blew it up in the atmosphere and the gas is probably going to be spread anyway.
And whether or not he should have killed himself doing it is debatable.
Like, as far as stupid sacrifices go, this one isn't that egregious.
No, but it's also
but-
not entirely.
Yeah, we should talk about why he had to sacrifice himself, which is there was
It kind of
apparently...
escaped me.
Okay, so there's apparently a timer on the plane, right? Which means they couldn't just leave the plane there, right?
What are they fighting?
Where they're fighting, or it's gonna blow up anyway. So they have to take the plane elsewhere, but they can't land it, or it's gonna blow up and fucking spread the gas. So he flies it up into the sky and shoots it and blows it up in movie logic in a safe place. Now, I want to
Just
talk.
like angels and demons.
Let's think about two things here. One, that the atmosphere is a safe place to blow up gas, right? And two, why was there a timer on it? Like,
That's what
okay,
confusing.
and this is what's so fucking stupid. Is like, okay, there's a timer on it so that no matter what, it blows up. Even if it takes out their own base? Is that the plan? What?
Just gotta kill someone.
I don't care who we kill, just blow it up. Fuck it. So yeah, that's what's going on. Is that he sacrifices himself while Wonder Woman and that kicks Wonder Woman into overdrive and she fucking defeats the boss. This is how the movie should have ended. Ares doesn't have anything to do with any of this. There is no God. There's no interference, right? It's literally just humanity. She kills the guy who she thinks is Ares, but he's not. Nothing stops. And here's the thing. There's a really poignant moment that I really liked between Wonder Woman and Kirk right after she kills the general. That discussion of like, it's just humanity. This is who we are, you know? Like, you have to come to terms with this, right? The war is a big global thing. It's not something that can just be stopped by killing one person, right? That should have been the ultimate point of the movie. And what should have happened from that scene, right, is now the goal is they have to stop the airplane carrying the gas, right? That should have been the boss for all intents and purposes. So they should have fought their way through, you know, been fighting. Kirk gets onto the plane, tries to stop the pilot, but they're airborne, so they're fighting on the plane. But Wonder Woman is left on the ground, right? Mm-hmm. Now, say that there is a timer. I don't know, like, you can have some sort of ticking clock, right, where it's gonna blow. You can even have it be some kind of malfunction, even as played out as that is.
Yeah.
But let's say there is a timer, okay? It's gonna blow up no matter what, okay? And he realizes that he's in a position now where he's in the plane, it's flying, there's nowhere to land it, right?
Which would make sense. You see the surroundings?
Yeah, it's trees. If he lands, it's going to be a crash landing, and it's going to blow up anyway, you know. There's no parachute, and even if there was, it's going to blow up, and he's going to be gassed anyway. And he realizes this is a hopeless situation. And say that the rest of the group, along with Wonder Woman on the ground, are talking to him on a radio, right? And he's talking to Wonder Woman, saying, you know, and she's pleading with him, like, we can do something, we can get you out of this, there's something that we can do. And he's trying to tell her, like, this is a situation that, for all your power, there's nothing anybody can do about this, right? He is going to die, and he has come to terms with that. And it's him trying to get Wonder Woman to deal with it and to realize that her power can't solve every problem, that she is now in a situation that she has no control over. And then he sacrifices himself by plunging himself into the ocean.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Then you would have like a bittersweet ending where it's like they saved the peace conference, you know, the war is over in part due to Wonder Woman. Like under this ending, she helped make that happen. You know, she helped save the war. But it doesn't fall under the superhero trope of she's the one that saved the world, right? She was a part of it. Other people helped too. This was a global war, and she wasn't the only person that stopped it. It was a global effort, and it was actually the peace talks that she didn't have part in that stopped the war, right? But now she has a real understanding of humanity and the world, of that she doesn't have control over everything, and humanity is flawed, but she accepts the flaws in humanity and vows to do whatever she can to help the things that she does have control over. That would have been a really good character arc, and it would have made that character's sacrifice all the more poignant and meaningful and have a real impact on her as a character. And it wouldn't have needed a big end fight, right? I mean, you could have had like a fun fight scene trying to get on the plane and everything. But ultimately, the climax of the movie could have been a drama, and a really good one. But instead, we get fucking Mr. fucking fire glowy douchebag beating the shit out of Wonder Woman.
He looked like Dragonborn if Dragonborn had a posh British mustache.
He looked ridiculous. The whole fight was ridiculous. It was boring. It was pointless. It looked like shit. It didn't mean anything to Wonder Woman as a character, and the sacrifice that the other character made is instead thought of as kind of dumb. Like there was a good ending to be had in this movie that was already set up and ready to go if they just did it. But instead, they turned it into every fucking other superhero movie where the bad guy comes out of nowhere, there's a giant fight that's boring as hell, Wonder Woman saves the fucking day, end of movie.
Yep. And then talks about how she's gonna fight with love.
Yeah. And that's why the movie was so irritating to me, was because, one, I was thoroughly enjoying it, and two, where I thought it was gonna go, it not only didn't go there, went in the complete opposite, most generic fucking bullshit route possible, and just made a shit ending to an otherwise pretty decent movie.
So, final thoughts.
Those pretty much are my final thoughts. Like, honestly, I enjoyed this movie more than most superhero movies, especially recently.
Especially after watching Suicide Squad.
I honestly wouldn't mind owning this one and watching it again. I'd watch it again.
Yeah.
The ending will still piss me the fuck off, but I'll watch it again. The other two things I wanted to bring up very briefly, the way that they deal with the fish out of water storyline, you can compare it to Thor. Except in Thor, it was so clumsy and goofy and...
In Thor, it is merely a means to comedy.
Hi. Just taking a little blood.
How dare you attack the son of Odin?
Need some help. I'm here to help you. Security, the
You're no match for the mighty.
Yeah,
It is
it's
just a comedic relief. While in this, it is comical, but it's also her character, and it is also
Yes.
important for the plot of the movie.
yeah, like it is funny, but it forwards the movie and her character arc, and it's handled really well. Unlike Thor, where it's just like shitty. Oh my God, she saw him without his shirt on. Ugh. Like it's
Not to say that Thor doesn't have some funny things with him.
fine, but none of
apart
it.
from Robert Downey Jr., I would say he's
Thor.
Yes, apart from Robert Downey Jr., Thor
Oh.
is the only one in the Avengers with even a lick of charm.
Yes.
But it is not even to the ankles of how actually well approached he was in Wonder Woman.
Yeah, like Wonder Woman. I thought I wasn't gonna like the actress at first, but I actually did, and
She got better. She
what-
was awkward at the island.
she wasn't the perfect choice for Wonder Woman, but she was
No.
good enough that
Yeah.
I actually got to like the character. And it's been a long time since I felt like I actually liked a superhero as a character, you know, because she was written well enough, because she was acted well enough. The biggest problem I have with the actress is the way she looks, where it's like Wonder Woman needs to be beefy, and I would say almost beautiful, but beautiful despite herself. Right? You know what I mean? Where it's like this actress, I forget her name.
The look of like she's almost made of marble is
Yeah,
interesting. I kind of like that, but it's not like just that she's so skinny. It feels like
she feels weak. Like you.
She does.
You look at her and she
feels
just
flimsy.
She looks flimsy, and like I said, I don't like the supermodel look for her. I'm not a Wonder Woman fan. I never read the comics. I never watched the cartoons. But Wonder Woman is supposed to be an Amazon, and she's supposed to be a superhero.
I don't think she should look like big and
No, she
strong.
shouldn't look like a bodybuilder, but she should
look
be
like-
big.
Yeah, she should. You should understand. Like she'll just look sturdy.
Yes.
That's all she needs to look.
She needs
Dude,
muscle tone too.
She needs a little bit of muscle tone. Yes, because Wonder Woman is one who has none, and you can see plenty. There's none. She needs to have some more muscle tone. I don't think she should be like veiny or anything.
No.
But she should look sturdy and grounded.
She should look like an Amazon.
Yeah.
She's supposed to be an Amazon. She should fucking look like one. Instead, she looks like an airbrushed supermodel. And it's jarring and it looks weird and it doesn't feel right. But once you get past it, she's written well enough and acted well enough that it doesn't matter by the end of the movie.
I agree with that. Yes.
Like I said, I liked the movie well enough. I think
We were actually very surprised that we
Yes.
like this, and we do. It is one of those circumstances we are very glad to be proven wrong.
yeah. And the other thing that I wanted to point out that I loved about this movie is there were no cameos by any other fucking DC heroes. Like, I was shocked that they didn't shoehorn in the Flash somewhere. Just like traveling through time, like he just fucking pops up and tells Wonder Woman
Maybe
something.
they did, but it was just like in the background.
Like, I was shocked that they didn't find a reason to shoehorn in another hero at some point. Because that's what all of the other DC movies have been. Just shoehorning in other heroes. That's what Batman v Superman was, where Wonder Woman and the Flash show up at the end of that.
Fine, but Batman v Superman is a special case.
Is a special case of stupid, but I mean, Suicide Squad is also a special case of stupid, and it also shoehorns the Flash in there. Like, so I am absolutely shocked that they didn't find reasons to put in other superhero movies or other superhero characters into this movie, and I'm very glad that they didn't, because it makes the movie stand alone. It means that you can just watch this movie without feeling like you have to watch the rest of them, which is what I hate about the Marvel Universe in the upcoming Spider-Man movie. I actually like Spider-Man, but this new Spider-Man movie has the Marvel funk all over it, where it's like Tony Stark is there, they talk about all the other Avengers. You can't just watch that Spider-Man movie as a Spider-Man movie. You have to watch it in conjunction with the rest of the Marvel movies, right? And up until now, that's how the DC movies have felt too, where they are intertwining themselves. But this one is able to stand alone without any of that.
It feels like Marvel is run by EA and everything is DLC. To get this, you have to get the DLC pre-order.
Where it's like basically all of the stories are DLC, but they're all intertwined.
So you need all the DLCs.
So you need all of them. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like Destiny.
So I'm just really glad Wonder Woman didn't do that, because it means that if I want to watch Wonder Woman, I can pop it in and just watch Wonder Woman without having to deal with fucking The Flash or Batman or fucking Aquaman. Like, they could have put Aquaman in there somewhere. But yeah, so I enjoyed this movie. I'll probably buy it. It was better than not just any other DC movie, but certainly any other Marvel movie, with the exception of the first half of the first Iron Man. But yeah, I still just wish we could go back to the days when superhero movies were like standalone things and were crafted as individual stories, you know.
Granted, most of them were absolute dog shit.
No. Well, the ones that came out in the 70s were, but
or in the 90s.
Okay, fine. There was also a rash of shitty 90s ones, but when you look at Spider-Man, when you look at X-Men, when you look at even the Tim Burton Batman or the Chris Nolan Batman, like they're standalone crafted stories that
let's not pretend that like good superhero movies have never existed, because that's preposterous.
Good superhero movies have been around, and they have been better because they weren't trying to fit themselves into this whole other big fucking spider web of movies. They were just telling a story, which is why, you know, The Dark Knight is such an outstanding film, because it even rises above even the good superhero movies and becomes something more. It becomes a crime drama.
Yeah,
right?
calling The Dark Knight.
Yeah, calling The Dark Knight a superhero movie is almost an insult.
Yeah.
But still, good superhero movies have existed. They've been standalone stories, and they've been better for it. And this Wonder Woman movie is the closest thing that we've had to that in a really long time, where it's its own movie without being bombarded by the rest of its universe.
Yeah. I think that's a very extensive.
I told you there was a lot to say about it.
There
You didn't
is.
believe me.
No, fine. These aren't just my thoughts on the movie. There's an analysis of the movie, and I thought you.
Those are my thoughts of the movie. So yeah, it's the first superhero movie in a really long time that I would actually recommend people go see. So if you haven't seen it, go see it. It's even worth seeing in theaters. Like, go see Wonder
true.
Woman. Buy it next time.
Alright.
Yep, that's not gonna work. Please put the sword down.
It doesn't go with the outfit.
At all.